All right, I wanted to get into this one. This, I think this started as a long video that I wanted to do, but I actually think I'm gonna make this one pretty short. I've got a two-part kind of video for this one. I've got the the whole thing about the Republicans trying to break in. They said storming the committees on the interviews and all that kind of stuff for the impeachment process. But there's also this that came out the other day, the opening statement by Mr. Bill Taylor. The biggest problem that's been going on with these impeachment inquiries, or the committees, not the inquiries, because technically it's not an inquiry yet. Technically, we're just kind of looking around. The biggest problem with them is what's been coming out. That's why Republicans are so mad about them. Only certain things are coming out. The only thing we've got so far is this opening statement by Bill Taylor, and the media is losing their mind trying to say that this is it. We've done it. After what Mr. Mulvaney said in the interview, saying there was pro quo, and then after Mr. Mulvaney said there is quid pro quo, and then he walked it back and said there isn't, saying that he didn't mean to say what he said, the way he said it, blah, blah, blah. People are losing their mind. And then this comes out, and I want to give you a timeline of, based on what these two articles, or these two PDFs say, which I'm going to link below, and I want you guys to read them. Read the statement by, I mean, you could read either of them, but I'd suggest reading this one first, the new one, and then read this by Mr. Bill Taylor. This is the original phone call, and then read this by Mr. Bill Taylor. Because the way the timeline works out, I think it's better that way. Just to understand. You can read them. The president's one is a quick read. It's not really that long. Anyway, let me start off. I'm going to read this crazy CNN article to start, and then I'll tell you what I think the timeline looks like. Dramatic deposition rocks Trump's impeachment defense. Democrats may have just unearthed their smoking gun and the quid pro quo in one fell swoop after the most consequential and dramatic turn yet in their impeachment investigation into President Trump. On yet another mind-bending day in a presidency that is carving out one of the most turbulent passages in U.S. political history, Trump's plight and that of his GOP defenders markedly darkened. The top U.S. diplomat in the Ukraine notified House investigators that he was told that the release of military aid to Kiev would depend on a pledge to probe 2016 election and 2020 Democrat presidential candidate Joe Biden, who, in accordance to a CNN poll conducted by the SSRS, would lead Trump by 10 points. The deposition by Bill Taylor on Tuesday appears to directly refute the president's claim that there was no quid pro quo in his dealings from the Soviet state. Now, the problem with this is, first off, the majority of this is hearsay. It's he said, she said, told me that, he said it depended on that. And you can't convict anyone off of that kind of stuff. And until they come up with something hard, none of this is going to get him impeached. You may vote for it in the House, but it's never going to get through. And if it doesn't get through, if he gets impeached and he doesn't get removed, you're going to get smashed in 2020. And that's why I haven't voted for it yet. If this is their smoking gun they've been waiting for, it is now 2 days later. And by my watch right here, there's still no vote. And I'm waiting. If this is it, if this is what you've been waiting on, where's the vote? It's not coming. And I'm gonna tell you why. It's because, like I said, it's literally nothing. Read these, as I said before. They are trying to prove, for the 8 millionth time, quid pro quo, which I'm so tired of hearing. I'm so tired of hearing interviews where it's quid pro quo, quid pro quo, quid pro quo. Look, if they can't get actual documentation that Trump said with this plus this equal this, you're never convicted. Just based on these, you can tell that what was happening was Mr. Bill Taylor is saying that he inferred, he even says it in here, that it was all about the investigations. Now, when you go back and you read all of them, which I suggest you do, Don't take anybody's stupid clips from any of these articles or the statement because you're lazy and don't want to read. Just take 15 minutes and read them. Read it slow. It shouldn't take you that long, but read it slow and understand what's going on. What happened was Trump wanted a commitment from Ukraine. And what most likely happened is he said, we're holding up the money. Don't tell them, but I want a commitment from the president, from them, and I'd like to put pressure on them. That is most likely what happened. Now, if this entire, the entire impeachment is about, was there quid pro quo? You can't have quid pro quo, again, which I'm tired of saying. You can't have that if the Ukraine doesn't know it. Trump or the senators never came out and said, we're holding up the money until you do this. What Trump said, probably behind doors, which this isn't their official thing, but based on what they said in his phone call to the president of the Ukraine, and based on what Mr. Bill Taylor later says, what most likely happened is behind closed doors, Trump said, hey, I want to get a commitment from these guys that they're going to investigate. Let's hold up the money and see what they say. And then when they eventually said, okay, we will commit to this, and there's going to be no issues with it, the money was released. That is exactly what it seems like happened. Now, whether it's good or bad for the president to be doing this kind of stuff, I would push back a little bit on that. Now, I do think it's improper. Maybe that the president shouldn't be doing it, coming so boldly out. But the problem is when people argue with me that the president shouldn't be trying to investigate things just because someone is a candidate to run against him. If the Bidens or the Clintons or anybody, if Trump's own son is involved in another country, you should be investigating this kind of stuff. If Trump directly knows that the Bidens were involved, why wouldn't you say that? Look, I understand that we don't want to get into this political witch hunt of people trying to hunt down their political opponents and stuff. That's a terrible path to go down. But if you know they're involved and you know it's part of the corruption, what do you want to do? Like, you're just going to stop every illegal investigation? We're not going to investigate corruption because of that reason? You're going to pump billions of dollars into Ukraine and give them all this money in aid just to see it flushed down the drain, given to other politicians and being given to your political opponents and stuff like that. I don't think that's good policy. I really don't like the idea that just because someone like Biden would be involved in this means you can't investigate it. That's a bad precedent. That means people can get away with whatever they want, and it's just a bad idea. And I think the biggest thing to pull from this is that, again, Trump has a big mouth. What most likely happened is behind closed doors, Trump had a briefing that said, we know about corruption in the Ukraine, and it most likely involved the Bidens, and we would like to get we've been, because they were already investigating this stuff before, which there's a whole nother video I could do on Biden trying to get the original prosecutor fired in the Ukraine and all that kind of stuff, but they already knew about it and they knew it was ongoing, and Trump probably caused this whole thing with his big mouth because he could, instead of just saying he wants them to investigate the corruption, which is a very legitimate thing to do, which was already ongoing, he had to mention the Bidens because of when Trump hears something, he has to say it. He doesn't know how to censor himself. You know what I mean? He could have just said the corruption going on, blah blah blah, but someone whispered something in his ear about it. This happens all the time with Trump. It seems like every press conference someone mentions something about something that happened, he has to name drop. And that most likely seems like what happened. Now, you can say this is still grounds for impeachment, and he's going after political opponents and stuff like that. But I think that's an entire inquiry on its own. You can't, if the inquiry we're having now is based on quid pro quo, that is not what happened. Just based on what I think the timeline was based on where this went. And that is my views on that. You can agree or disagree. I really don't. I don't know how else to take the way this is coming out. But until there's more proof and more actual transcripts instead of just like hearsay and Mr. Bill Taylor's entire statement. If you read through it, almost seems entirely like he was inferring what happened instead of having proof. Until there's more hard facts, I don't think they can go forward with this at all. But we'll just have to see what happens. And I'm gonna make a totally another video, like I said, just based on the Republicans barging in on the whole the committees that are happening right now, which is a question all its own on what was going on there. All right, thank you. Get your opinions down below. My name is Gavin Lee, and this is my channel, LeeCast. Thanks for watching. I put out videos most days on current events, politics, and more. Please subscribe and give me advice on more of what you'd like to see and help me build this channel into not only a source for all things political and current for you, but also a place less polarized by political insanity, a whole lot more common sense and discussion, and a lot less two-party bias. Subscribe below and comment on what you'd like to see. Thank you.